This is some of the Long Island cheese pumpkin that we grew in our Zone 7 garden this past season, and it's getting to be about time that I need to get them cooked up and put in the freezer, and we'll eat some of it. So I have another one to do. Join me and learn how I cut up my pumpkin. I wanted to show you both of these Long Island cheese pumpkins. They don't quite look like the picture, and part of the reason is because I've grown these for 2 years. Last year I grew them with seeds that I saved, and apparently they crossed with something. So they're not supposed to be quite as thick as this. And the size of this one is okay. It's more flat, like the one in the picture. But they're an awesome good pumpkin, and they're great for pies. Part of the reason that we're going to process this pie today is because its skin started to get, for kind of lack of a better word, looks almost like eczema, I guess, or maybe is that psoriasis? So, and also they're beginning to have spots. Now I know part of the reason for that is because it's been so cold already this winter. I keep these in our guest room with the door closed, and generally the temperature in there will stay about 40-45 degrees throughout the winter. So I store a lot of things, potatoes, separate area for onions, apples, all kinds of squash. It just works out really well. However, this season it got into the low double digits, below freezing, a lot quicker than it normally does. So I didn't keep a close enough eye on the room, and it got very cold in there. So I did open the door, and it does bring the temperature probably up into the low 50s, so which is a little bit warmer at any rate versus going closer to freezing. So I want to get this one processed. I already showed you what the other one looked like. That's in the oven. I'm going to cut up the smaller one for you because I think the larger one is really going to be a bear, and I don't want to have comic review on me cutting such a large pumpkin. So I'm going to start out with the smaller pumpkin. This one still has a nice skin to it. I'm going to wash it again just to be sure that it's clean. Probably got a little dusty even though the door was closed for most of the time. I do wash each pumpkin and squash before I put it into storage. I think to try to prevent what happened this year besides the issue with temperature. I'm going to rub it down with a little bit of tea tree oil next fall and see if that might help. I don't know what that scabbiness is on the rind of the pumpkin. Now, doing this in the sink for me is easier. I put the stem down into the drain. I do put the stem down into the drain. You could even take the drain plug out if you needed to, but since I'm short to do the pumpkins up on the countertop, I can't get the leverage that I need to get through the pumpkin. Be very careful. They can be slippery, and the rinds can be very difficult. This one is turning out to be pretty good. Not much resistance, so that's what also leads me to believe it's time to get this one processed. So we'll get that cut through there. As I said, sharp knives are always better. Make sure your knives are nice and sharp. Didn't go all the way through to the front, so I'll go right from there. There we go. There's that side. And now this side. And we'll open it up and see how it looks. Okay. That's nice and juicy on the inside. It still has quite a bit of moisture. It didn't dry out too much. So I think this is the perfect time. I'm sorry for the shadow. Let's see if that helps. There we go. Doesn't that look gorgeous? So what I do is I keep a measuring cup handy. Generally, the bigger the better because some of these have so much flesh in them. I also keep a spoon handy. I'm thinking I want to cut this again just to make it a little bit easier to handle. And keep an eye on where your thumb is. Okay. And then I'm going to take a paring knife. And I'm just going to slice into this real stringy flesh part. And that way, that will take care of most of that stringiness. And I'll just put it in there because what I'll do, we could save the seeds from this and we can roast the seeds, which is a really good snack. And for most of the pulp, what I'll end up doing is I will save that to feed to the worms. Because once that's frozen, when I go to take it out again, I'll just score it just a little bit, just to make it a little bit easier to get that real fleshy stringiness out without too much trouble. I think a grapefruit spoon would work really well for doing this, and you wouldn't need to use a little paring knife. But you get out as much of the stringiness as you can. It's just like doing a regular pumpkin when you cut it at Halloween time, if you do Halloween. So let me get the rest of this done, and I'll bring you back. That's what I have left from the two pumpkins. One you didn't get to see a picture of beforehand because I didn't think to take a picture beforehand. And the other one is the small one I told you and showed you that I was cutting up. So what is here in the pile to this side will end up in the compost pile when I can get down to it. It'll go in a Ziploc bag for now and into the freezer. And then the Ziploc bag and what is in the measuring cup will end up being worm food. And I'm not going to save those seeds because, as I said, I know that the pumpkin crossed with something from the seeds that I used and the shape of the pumpkin. So I still have some of the seeds left from Baker Creek. I'll use them this year. I could roast those seeds, but I'm not going to do that this time. I'm going to allow them to be worm food because there are things in the shells and in the seeds that they can use to make good worm compost. Here's the finished product. This pumpkin will get ready to go into the oven when the previous tray is done. I'll give you a shot of how that looks right now. There they are baking away. 350-degree oven for about 45 minutes to an hour. I don't put any seasoning on them because I like them to be a clean slate. If I want to make soup, if I want to do pumpkin muffins, if I want to do a pumpkin pie, or how about pumpkin butter? I think that's what these guys are going to turn into this time. Even though I normally don't roast them, since I have those in the oven, I'll get the crock pot out, I'll roast these, and I'll make some pumpkin butter today. So that's a reason to grow pumpkins if you've never tried it. It's a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel. Join me on my journey for the 2018 gardening season, and we'll learn some new things together. Have a great day. Happy gardening.